witches. I'm really excited to bring this today's lesson. So this lesson is finally going to be about how to telepathically communicate with Goddess Hekate, how to achieve Gnosis as far as the communicative aspect of it with her, okay? I took notes from my book, the book that I wrote, and so I'm just going to dive right into this, okay? So, within yourself, everyone has two voices that speak within themselves, okay? Two different ways of thinking, okay? Two voices, okay? One is the ego voice, which is body-centered. It identifies as the body and it perceives reality from that perspective, okay? I meant to start this off by saying there's no judgment when you're learning this Gnosis, okay? A lot of people think that the ego is a bad thing that needs to be defeated or something like that. And that's just not how Hekate taught this to me, okay? Everything that exists as it is right now exists as it is right now for a reason, okay? So ego is not bad. I just want to put that at the beginning of this video before we start getting more deeper into this. So anyways, your ego voice, though, your ego mindset is very much body-centered, about your individuality, your perception from that, okay? And because it perceives the world from that lens, anything that it says is giving a voice to that way of thinking, okay? And so that's why I call it the ego voice. That's why I call it two voices. The other voice is the voice of your soul, okay? And this is a mindset. It arises from a mindset that is spiritually centered in oneness and in relationships with others and with the entire world, okay? The relationship that you have between yourself and everything and everyone else. And so that is the perception of your spiritual truth, your spiritual reality. And so any dialogue, any way of thinking that arises from there is the voice of your soul, okay? Now, the next part of this is about the two different wills, okay? You have a lower will and a higher will, okay? Your lower will speaks with the ego voice. It arises from the body-centered way of thinking and speaking, okay? Your higher will it speaks with your soul voice, and it arises from the oneness, the relationship way of thinking and speaking. So your lower will, your ego identity, your ego voice is all tied to your physical body. And not just your physical body, but your individuality, okay? Now, the higher will and the soul self is tied to your position within the oneness that is everything, okay? And at the same time, that actually is you as Hekate, as a piece, as a shard of her cosmic soul, okay? So I just want to emphasize again, these two different perceptions, mindsets, ways of being, these two different wills, these two different voices, they're not meant to be in conflict, okay? Just because that they're two different things does not automatically mean that they're at war or that they're in conflict. That was a Christian religious misinterpretation of these spiritual truths, okay? To say they're at war. It actually goes beyond Christianity, because actually before Christianity decided to put those two at war, we had Zoroastrianism, which was another religion that arose. I think it was one of the first religions that arose where it created a conflict in the duality principles, okay? Because before that, people just knew that duality was just real, and it was just about balance and seeking equilibrium between all these different things. But then you have these religions come on the scene into the world where they decided to say, no, they're in conflict, they're in war. One is good, one is evil. Absolutely one is good, and absolutely one is evil. Rather than to realize that it's more integrated than that perception, okay? So both of these voices, both of these wills already do exist within you, within every single person, okay? So the whole point of this lesson is to get you to fully understand that the voice of your higher will is the voice of Hekate within you, okay? We are not separate from Hekate. She is the cosmic soul. She is the cosmic spirit. And everything that exists, including us, is her, is a piece of her, okay? But more than just being a piece of her, it just is her, okay? So your own higher self, which is your understanding that you are part of the oneness, are part of Hekate, that is also Hekate within you. It's a two-way street, okay? This is why they teach you have to meet God halfway. Have you heard that before? It's because you have to understand that you are one with God, okay? So when you understand that, you will acknowledge it within you, okay? So your acknowledging of it is like you're ascending, you're seeking, and also too at the same time it becomes reflected, because then you will receive from it, okay? So I hope this is making sense to y'all. So Hekate is your higher self at the same time that she is the collective cosmic soul, okay? Let's really want to emphasize that. She doesn't have to be one or the other, okay? She is both, very much. And so are you. You are your body, you are your lower will, you are your individual identity, and at the same time, you are also a piece of Hekate, part of her soul, part of the oneness. So like I said, both of these exist within you for a reason. And within everybody, we already all naturally are an embodiment of both of these forces together. Okay? The thing is that over time, these mysteries have been lost from consciousness, from our awareness, okay? Whether if that was just from us forgetting it as a species, or if it was about the fact that these people in positions of power like kings and queens and shit of the past imposed religions that were conducive to the conflict and the duality of it, okay? It is a duality to understand that you are an individual at the same time that you are also one with Hekate, one with everything, one with the oneness, one with the cosmic soul. That is a duality, but it's not at conflict, okay? The only reason it is at conflict in this day and age is because of these religions that taught it to be in conflict, okay? Before that, it was understood that this was just the way that it is, okay? Now, the fact that humanity has forgotten this or has been trained to view it as in conflict did not change reality. So we still are those two things, okay? We still are that duality embodied. But what it has done is it has caused this knowledge, this gnosis, to fall into forgetfulness or into a kind of forbidden zone of they're supposed to be at conflict, so it's wrong if you try to bring them together, okay? And so as far as the religions are teaching it and putting it out there, okay? So the entire point of this lesson is to bring this into remembrance, bring this in to recognition for what it is truly, bring it back into awareness of this duality of what you truly are embodied, and understand that you are not just your individuality, your individual soul. You are also a vessel to a higher spirit, which is Hekate, the oneness, okay? Hekate, the mind of the oneness, the spirit of the oneness that lives in you at the same time that your lower soul lives in you. They're both living in you together at the same time, right here and right now. And so in the past, before you learned this lesson, you probably thought that all of your thoughts were just you, your lower self, okay? You probably thought that was just your own psychology, your own mind, as just a one singular thing, okay? That's not the case. You are two consciousnesses embodied together into one being, okay? That is the truth of what we are. And by understanding this, we can form a better relationship within ourselves, with the divine, and just understanding what we are, our own self, and also too forging a stronger, more conscious, aware relationship with Hekate, okay? And that's the whole point of this lesson, is to be able to telepathically communicate with her. Well, we already all do that, okay? Because like I said, you already are these two minds right now. You always have been. So we already are all doing this, okay? Thing is that you have been unconscious of the process because, once again, of what I was saying, this knowledge, this wisdom has been pushed into an unconscious realm by being demonized, by being whatever you want to call it. I don't have time to break that down in this video, but you get my point, is that this knowledge has been forgotten, okay? And so it's been pushed into a realm of unconsciousness, unawareness. And that's the whole reason of why we need this lesson, okay? So all we have to do is recognize and remember these components of our own being, okay? So this is the mystery of Know Thyself. If you've read about the ancient temples, the ancient, what they called in ancient Greece, the lesser mysteries and the greater mysteries, and the thing written above the doorway to the temple where the students would learn the greater mysteries was know thyself, and you shall know all of the mysteries of the gods and the universe. Okay? And that's what they're talking about. That's what the greater mysteries are. What this lesson is the greater mysteries. Okay? It was understanding this knowledge that you are not just one being existing within yourself. You are your lower self, you are your lower soul, you are your individual identity, but at the same time, you are a vessel to the greater spirit, which is Hekate, okay? So all of your thoughts are not coming from one source. They're coming from two sources this whole time. You just have to recognize and discern your own internal being and that internal relationship so that you can understand what are the communications that are coming to you from Hekate versus your own just thoughts that you just think of by yourself, okay? So that's the point of this lesson. And this is the key to being able to telepathically communicate with Hekate, because once again, we already are all doing that unconsciously. But once you understand this process, once you understand these internal components, which one is you and one is her the whole time, you can then understand that you can then now probe her. You can talk to her consciously within yourself through internal dialogue, through telepathy, okay? Now, I do also want to point out in this that Hekate is not just in you, okay? She is a being, a cosmic spirit that exists in everywhere, in everything, in everyone, in every other spirit that exists. All of it, everything. She's the sum total of it all. She's the collective of it all. So, yes, she's in you, but she's also beyond you, okay? So understand that too. That's why I say you're having a telepathic communication with her, because it's not just an internal dialogue with yourself, okay? You're actually communicating with something that is outside of you as well. So it is telepathic. Now, I did want to also say some other things from my book that I wrote that are tied into this lesson, and that's about the Holy Trinity, or what they called the Divine Triad. Before Christianity really stole this teaching and turned it into the Holy Trinity, it was called before that, in the ancient teachings, the Divine Triad, okay? So the Divine Triad is representative of true wholeness. For the sake of understanding it, we break it down into 3 components, okay? But in reality, it always has been one, it always is, and it always will be one, okay? But for the sake of understanding it, you kind of have to break it down into this triad, okay? So you may have seen this before in like psychological books or in other spiritual books where they talk about your 3 selves, your lower self, your middle self, and your higher self, okay? But you may not have understood that fully, because I know that I did not understand. Whenever I would read that in witchcraft books or something, I did not fully understand what it meant until until I became Hecate's oracle, and she was able to just tell me directly the true interpretation of that. So you can look at these, the Divine Triad, as 3 levels of your mind, okay? Which is to say, there are 3 modes of thinking, 3 ways of thinking, 3 perceptions, okay? So you could call them 3 levels of mind or 3 levels of being, but truly it is one whole thing, okay? One whole system. It's necessary to break it down insofar as to give perfect understanding of it. And then after that, it's just considered as one again, okay? So just understand that as we go into this next part of the lesson. So it's composed, the Divine Triad is composed of 3 aspects, okay? Now, none of those 3 aspects is more important than any of the other ones. None of them is more powerful, etc. Okay, they're all one whole system. Once again, I need to emphasize that because some people don't fully grasp the fact that they are one, okay? Now, as a teaching device, the point of breaking it down and calling it a Divine Triad is in order to help you attain balance and wholeness by centering you in your divinity, okay? So here's the 3 aspects of it. You have God, the source, oneness, wholeness, the all, and we would call this your higher self, okay? The second aspect is Hekate, which we would also call it the Holy Spirit, the cosmic world soul, the consciousness as the source and the subject as one at the same time. We call it the messenger, the mediator, and the bridge. And it's also called Christ consciousness or God consciousness, okay? Those are all the different ways that you can describe that aspect of it. And then the third aspect is you as a personality, as an individual. each created person, whom through Hekate, the Holy Spirit, shares one mind with God, the Source. Okay? So basically, once again, where I was talking about the 3 levels of self, your lower self, your middle self, and your higher self, what you can understand that as is your lower self is your individuality consciousness, okay? That mindset and the voice that arises from there. Your middle self is Hekate, which is the unifying consciousness of relationship consciousness. If this ties in with the video I recently did of how Hekate relates to spirit work, which I posted on YouTube for just everyone to watch. So go revisit that video to understand the aspect that Hekate is of ourself, even while she's greater than our individual self at the same time, okay? And then the higher self would be God the Source, which we connect with and communicate with through Hekate, okay? So once again, breaking this down into those 3 aspects is not meant to cause confusion. It's not meant to cause any concepts of separation, okay? You still have to understand that all of this is embodied in you all at the same time, okay? It's just the fact that we break it down into the 3 aspects so that you can have more perfect understanding of this process, okay? Okay, I think I really just went off, like when I was writing this in my book, I like really just kept kind of repeating myself because it was back when I was first learning it. Y'all can see June 1st, 2014, okay? And so I just like really re-emphasized it to myself when I was writing it in here. But I have basically taught everything about this right now in this video. And I just want to show y'all this picture that I drew as well, so y'all can kind of see the 3 aspects. But once again, it's all really just one the whole time, okay? So, kind of the key to all of this is to unlearn the Christian duality, as far as duality and conflict mindset that is like a block between your understanding of what you really are the whole time, okay? You have to think about how these religions were created, literally by kings and queens of countries, okay, in the ancient past. These people who were kings and queens who ruled over other people, that's key to understanding this. They were ruling over people, okay? And so what they were trying to do was keep people ignorant so they could keep ruling them, okay? Understand that. So, religions were not created to help you, all right? Now, what they did was they took actual real spiritual teachings that can help you, but they created religions out of it, okay? So it's the wolves in sheep's clothing, okay? They took true spiritual teachings to draw, so that it could draw you in, so you think it's innocent, but they formed out of it a religious structure that actually binds you instead of setting you free, instead of giving you this true knowledge. They tainted it, basically, okay? And that was because they were kings and queens over peasants and shit, and they wanted to keep their power and control, their richness, all of that, by keeping people ignorant and subjugated to them, okay? So understand that. Where the world that we are living in right now is the residue of the world that I was just talking about, okay? So we are all kind of born into this world with the after effects of what those people did in the past. And so this whole knowledge is blocked from us. It's been forgotten. It's been suppressed. And it's just simply just the way that the world is. It's I mean, this knowledge itself is just the way that God created us, okay? That the universe created us. We're supposed to just inherently be this way, and we are. But once again, it's been suppressed, it's been forgotten over time. So really, this is just a very simplistic thing, because everything that's true is simple, okay? When things don't make sense, when they get too complicated and complex, it's because they're usually lies or manipulations, okay? So basically, the whole thing with this lesson is just unlearning these false concepts of separation from the divine, which is what these duality religions brought into the world, that, oh, we fell from grace, we're separate from God, etc. That's just not true, okay? And it's those types of beliefs that block you from recognizing within yourself the divine, okay? And your connection with it. If you believe that the divine is something outside of you only, because once again, like I said, Hekate is within you and outside of you at the same time, and that does not contradict each other, okay? She is outside of you, but she is also in you at the same time. But the key part of her being in you has been suppressed. But if you believe that God is outside of you, you're always going to be seeking for it in the wrong place, okay? And that assures that you will never find it. You have to understand that you have never been separate from the divine, even when you didn't understand it, even when you were blind to that fact, you were still one with it, okay? Truth is truth. It doesn't matter if you're aware of it or not. It's still the truth. It still is reality, okay? So the key with this lesson is just understanding the components of your soul and how there's different parts and pieces to it, okay? You're not just one spirit. That's another thing that they misrepresent to us all the time. You're not just one spirit. You have your soul, your lower soul, and then you have your higher spirit. Both are embodied in your life right now, okay? What you are is a combination of those together. And the higher spirit is Hekate, okay? So just understand that. Now, when it comes to the telepathic communication with her, everything of what I have taught so far in this video has been about recognizing who you are as your lower soul, recognizing who she is as your higher soul, and recognizing that both of these beings speak within you, within your thoughts, okay? Now, when it comes to telepathically communicating with her, all you really have to do is create a dialogue in your mind through telepathy. Talk to her, and she will answer you, okay? Through what you had previously thought was your own thought. Now you understand when she's responding to you, it's not coming from your own thought. Kind of want to give an example of this so you can understand what I'm talking about. At some point in our lives, we all give advice to others, okay? Sometimes, especially for witches, people come to us and they ask us for advice, okay? Now, think about this. When you give someone advice, okay, sometimes people ask you for advice with things that you have never been through before. You have never experienced before yourself. In this lifetime personally, okay? And they'll just talk about their situation and ask for your input, your advice, right? There's a faculty in you that connects with that person empathically, sympathetically, okay? And suddenly you start to give advice to that person. And where is that coming from? If you have never experienced that before, if you have never been through the same thing that they are asking for advice with, where is that advice that you're giving them coming from? Where is that wisdom coming from within you? Okay? It's coming from Hecate. You're channeling a higher source, a higher consciousness, okay? That's what you're doing. You just need to recognize the process. Now, if you can do that for other people, okay, when they physically ask you a question, when they physically ask you for advice, if you can do that for other people, you can also do that for yourself, okay? You can ask questions of your own higher self, Hecate, just within your mind. You don't even have to verbalize it. You can just ask it within your mind and then allow her to give an answer, okay? This might seem strange at first. This might seem weird, whatever you want to call it, but it does work. And you are going to be able to prove it to yourself, because what happens is that you can ask questions about things that you know yourself that you do not know about, okay? Try it. Ask some things. Ask things that you don't even know about yourself, that you've never studied, that you've never experienced, that you've never researched, whatever. Ask questions and allow the answers to come, okay? Now, this also is about psychic power, because this is also, you are using telepathy, okay? And so that's why in the post that I made in the group, I was saying this is actually learning how to communicate with Hecate telepathically is actually the first step to then learning how to communicate with other spirits, other people, other forces and energies telepathically, okay? Because what you're doing is you're learning how to use your psychic faculty of telepathic communication by communicating with her, with Hecate first, okay? And this is actually too, if you were to go learn from another psychic or something like that, that will teach you how to communicate with spirits. They will first and foremost teach you how to telepathically communicate with your own higher self, with your own higher guides, and your own higher divinity. That is the necessary first step to learn how to do, okay? And I'll probably break that down in future lessons. But to get back on topic of what I was saying, though, ask Hecate questions about things that you know you don't know about, okay? And then allow her to give you a response. Don't try to overanalyze the process of what's happening, of what you're doing. because you might just block yourself by not having the faith and not allowing it to happen, okay? You have to just allow it to happen, and don't be analytical of it when it's happening. Let the answers come to you, okay? Then afterwards, you can be analytical as you want. You can then go and a lot of times what I did when I was first proving it to myself that it was a true experience, back in 2013, 2014, that time period, when Hekate first started communicating with me and me with her consciously, I was really on this binge, on this thing of like wanting to prove it to myself that it was truly happening and that it wasn't just my own imagination or whatever. So what I would do is I would ask her questions, I would get an answer from her, write it down, and then later on I would then go and like research about the answers that she gave me, and sure enough, it was true. Okay, it was highly accurate every single time, okay? And it has led all the way to the point to where I'm at now, where I just talk with her telepathically all the time, and I don't question it anymore because I just know that it's true. So, let me see if there's anything else I should cover in this video. Another thing I should say is that this does start off kind of slow when you first start doing it. Or at least it did for me, because I went through different stages of this. At first, she would communicate with me kind of her own. Like, I did not ask her questions, but she would just give me wisdom, knowledge, or whatever. Largely, this entire book was written in that process of her just telling me things without asking questions first. Okay, she just would tell me things, and I would write it down. And that would happen when I was awake at random times. Actually, another thing I should say is that part of this process is kind of bypassing your logical mind. You kind of have to do that in a way, because when you're first learning how to do this, you are going to want to be analytical in that kind of critical way, right? If that makes sense to you. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with logic and with being analytical, but when you're letting that block the communications from taking place by being like, oh, is this really happening? Is that my thought? Is that Hecate's thought? When you're analyzing it like that at that level while it's happening, you're just going to confuse yourself and kind of block it, okay? So you kind of need to bypass that part of your mind that's like that, and just let the communications come. Write it down. Just be open when you're being open, okay? And then afterwards, you can then be analytical and analyze it and stuff like that. So what I was going to say is that actually some things that happened to me when I first became aware of this, what I'm trying to say is when I first became aware of the oneness, before I was telepathically communicating with Hekate by dialogue of me asking her questions and her answering, before I got to that phase, but when I first became aware of the oneness of the triad, she would just give me wisdom at random times. And it was usually at times when I was doing something idle, like, for instance, anything that's like repetitive, that kind of just gets your mind blank. Like, for instance, when you're cleaning, when I was brushing my teeth, when I was vacuuming, when I was sweeping, when I was just doing idle things like that, that kind of make your mind go blank because it's just a repetitive process. She would communicate to me in those moments, okay? I know that kind of sounds funny, but it's about the fact that you're getting your mind blank and not so focused on analytical, logical things, okay? And also too, in shamanism, they utilize repetition as a means of going into a trance state, okay? Which is basically what I was doing, but I just didn't understand it, and I wasn't doing it in a ritual format, okay? But anything that's like repetitive puts you in a trance state that makes you open to these higher faculties, psychic powers, okay? So in shamanism, they might do like a drum beat that's repetitive, that activates this trance state, okay? They might use a rattle, different things like that. It could even be, though, dancing and stuff like that. Anything that's like a rhythmic, repetitive thing that you do that kind of puts you in this state of being blank, where you're not thinking of, you know, what are you going to do next in the day? How much money do you need to make? What bills do you need to pay? What are you going to make for dinner? Like all these different things that we distract our consciousness with by focusing on throughout the day. When you get yourself in that kind of trance state where you're not thinking of anything, but you're just doing a repetitive task or process, or once again, if you're doing it in a ritual format where you're using ritual tools to form a repetitive thing or pattern, you're going to put yourself in a trance state, and that makes you just open to communication. So once again, what happened to me is that when I first became aware of the oneness and understood it correctly, I would start getting communications from Hekate in random times of the day. Once again, when I was doing something repetitive that got me in that trance state. And I would just continue doing what I was doing and just let the information come in. I called them downloads, because that's kind of how it felt. And then I would write it down after I was done doing whatever I was doing. I would just go write it all down, okay? And then analyze it and be logical about it then, okay? So some of the things that she taught me during that phase of it was how to consciously, telepathically communicate with her at any time during the day, even when I wasn't in that trance state, okay? And so that's what I started doing next. Another thing is that she really started coming into my dreams like a lot more and communicating to me then. During sleep, which once again, it was really during the trance state of either right when you're falling asleep or right when you're waking up. During that time period, that's another trance state that your mind can be in, where you're awake but you're asleep at the same time. You're in an in-between liminal space, which of course Hekate rules those liminal spaces, thresholds, doorways, gateways. And I would get, once again, the same type of thing, where she would just communicate to me massive amounts of information, and then when I woke up, I would just write it all down. And once again, I wrote this entire book pretty much from different communications like that. What else can I add in this? It's just a process, okay? That's what I'm trying to say with this whole sector of this video, is it is a process. So don't feel like you have to rush it directly to the conscious telepathic communication in your waking state. You probably certainly can if you have enough faith and you just go forward with it, but you do not have to rush to that point. just understand this whole lesson, and let yourself process it. Let it ruminate, okay? Just let yourself process it. Let yourself accept it at the deepest levels, okay? Because once again, you're not just your consciousness mind. You are also your subconscious. You are also your unconscious at the same time. And those parts of you also need to accept this knowledge and process this knowledge as well. And however, though, like I said, this is about meeting God halfway. So once you become aware of this, then God, Hekate, Source, also becomes aware that you're now aware of this, and it will start to strongly then communicate more with you, okay? So, okay, that's another thing to kind of be excited about. I'm really excited for you guys to learn this video and this lesson, and start practicing it, start applying it, and get your own Gnosis and stuff like that. And please do share your experiences in the group, okay? Because I'm really looking forward to seeing how you all, what you all experience from this and attain. And I'm just really excited for y'all. And I don't think there's anything else I need to add in this video. I do want to say, yeah, write things down, okay? Because that's a huge thing. You might write some books from this, okay? So write down all these different communications, and also too, writing it down, wow. That was interesting. Also too, writing it down is like taking notes, okay? Like, you know, when you're in school learning a subject, learning a class, you write down notes and you'll understand it better, okay? You'll learn it more better by doing that, because you're just making extra effort to write it down, and that just makes it sink more deeply into your mind, into you, okay? So that will really help with the process of learning it all, and it will really help with drawing even more communication from Hekate, because she'll see that you're taking it more serious, and you really will be taking it more serious. And you might just write some books out of this, okay? So that's another thing. So I guess that's going to end it for this video. That was crazy that the lights flashed, but I think Hecate's really excited as well for you guys to learn all this. So make sure then that you write down the communications that you get from her, because there is so much that she can teach you. It's really infinite, okay? So just be prepared for your practice to like amplify, okay? Because this is the true Gnosis right here, okay? I love you guys. I hope that you leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any questions. Hail Hekatean, hail to the witches, and blessed be.